Nearly a century, this beautiful machine remained hidden inside an abandoned wooden barn. Dust covered every surface. Rust slowly consumed the steel. Spiders claimed every corner. Most people believed it was simply another forgotten piece of history waiting to disappear forever. But underneath the corrosion and decades of neglect, something extraordinary was still alive. A masterpiece built in 1930. Patiently waiting for someone brave enough to bring it back to life. The restoration journey always begins with a careful inspection. Years of moisture had attacked every exposed metal surface. The tires had collapsed. The engine refused to move. Every bolt seemed frozen in place. Yet amazingly, the original frame remained remarkably straight. That single discovery gave the restoration team hope that this forgotten classic could still return to the road once again. Before a single wrench could be turned, decades of dirt had to disappear. Every inch of the vehicle was gently cleaned to reveal what time had hidden beneath layers of dust and grime. Slowly, faded green paint started to appear once again. Although badly worn, it reminded everyone that this automobile had once been one of the most elegant machines on the road. Now came one of the biggest challenges. The original engine had not moved in decades. Every connection had to be carefully labeled before removal. Rust fought against every tool. Slowly and patiently, the heavy engine was lifted from the chassis. This marked the true beginning of the complete restoration process. Piece by piece, the entire automobile came apart. Every bolt, every suspension component, every panel was removed and carefully organized. What once looked like a complete car slowly transformed into hundreds of individual parts. Although it appeared to be destruction, this was actually the only way to rebuild the vehicle exactly as it had left the factory nearly 100 years ago. With every component removed, the bare chassis was finally exposed. Nearly a century of rust, grease, and old paint covered every inch of the steel frame. Powerful sandblasting equipment stripped away decades of corrosion, revealing clean, solid metal beneath. For the first time in generations, the original foundation of this 1930 Roadster looked almost exactly as it had when it first left the factory. It was a breathtaking reminder that true craftsmanship can survive the passage of time. Once the rust was removed, the real damage became impossible to ignore. Several sections of steel had weakened after decades of exposure. Rather than hiding the flaws with filler, skilled craftsmen carefully cut away every damaged piece. Fresh steel panels were shaped by hand and welded into place. Every repair matched the original factory design, preserving both strength and authenticity. Attention now turned to the suspension system. Every spring, axle, and steering component had suffered years of neglect. Each part was completely disassembled, cleaned, inspected, and rebuilt using precision techniques. Worn bushings were replaced, bearings were renewed, and every moving component was restored to factory specifications. Slowly, the chassis regained the strength and stability it once proudly carried across American roads. After countless hours of preparation, the frame was finally ready for protection. A durable corrosion-resistant primer covered every exposed surface before several coats of deep black chassis paint were carefully applied. The transformation was remarkable. What had once appeared hopelessly rusted now looked stronger than ever, creating the perfect foundation for the long rebuilding process ahead. With the chassis complete, all eyes turned toward the heart of the automobile. The original engine was completely dismantled. Every piston, valve, crankshaft, and bearing was carefully measured and restored. Precision machining returned worn surfaces to factory tolerances. After weeks of meticulous work, the legendary power plant slowly came back together, one perfectly restored component at a time. Soon, it would breathe life into this classic once again. After weeks of careful rebuilding, the final engine components were finally installed. Fresh gaskets sealed every joint, polished hardware replaced rusted fasteners, and every moving part was lubricated before assembly. The restored engine looked exactly as it would have in 1930. More importantly, every measurement matched factory specifications. The heart of this forgotten Roadster was finally ready to beat once again. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. Fuel flowed through freshly restored lines, the ignition was carefully checked, and the starter motor turned for the very first time. For a brief moment, silence. Then suddenly, the engine fired to life with a deep, unmistakable vintage rumble. After nearly a century, this legendary machine had found its voice once again. While the engine was alive again, the body still carried the scars of time. Every panel was carefully straightened by hand. Tiny dents disappeared under skilled craftsmanship instead of heavy filler. Rusted edges were replaced with perfectly shaped steel. Slowly, the elegant curves of the original body returned, proving that patience always creates the finest results. Before color could return, perfection was the only goal. Every panel was sanded repeatedly until every surface felt completely smooth. High-build primer covered the entire body, revealing even the smallest imperfections. Those flaws were corrected one by one. The Roadster was now perfectly prepared for the beautiful finish that would define its rebirth. At last, the moment of transformation had arrived. Multiple coats of the original deep British racing green were applied with incredible precision. Each layer was followed by careful curing and polishing until the finish reflected light like glass. The faded, forgotten automobile was beginning to look exactly as it had when it first captured attention back in 1930. The rebirth was now impossible to ignore. With the body shining once again, attention turned to the chrome details that gave this Roadster its timeless character. The headlights, radiator shell, door handles, and trim had become dull after decades of neglect. Each piece was carefully polished, repaired, and re-chromed until it reflected light like a mirror. These brilliant details transformed the car from a restoration project into a true work of art. The cabin had once been filled with cracked leather, broken stitching, and faded wood. Skilled craftsmen recreated every detail using materials that matched the original design. Fresh leather seats, restored wooden dashboard panels, polished gauges, and a handcrafted steering wheel brought the interior back to its 1930 elegance. Sitting behind the wheel now felt like stepping back in time. The beautifully restored wire wheels were carefully mounted with brand new vintage-style tires. Every wheel was balanced for smooth performance, and each suspension component was checked one final time. As the Roadster settled onto all four wheels again, it no longer looked like scattered parts in a workshop. It stood proudly once more, ready for the final stage of its incredible rebirth. Months of dedication were finally coming together. The freshly painted body was carefully lowered onto the restored chassis. Every wire, every bolt, and every mechanical system was connected exactly as it had been at the factory. One final inspection confirmed that every detail met the highest standard. The forgotten Roadster had become whole again. The workshop doors slowly opened, and sunlight reflected across the flawless green paint. The engine purred smoothly as the restored Roadster rolled forward for the very first time. What had once been forgotten in an old barn was now a stunning symbol of craftsmanship, patience, and history. This wasn't just the restoration of a car, it was the revival of a legend that would inspire generations to come. After months of relentless dedication, the restoration was finally complete. Every polished surface reflected the passion that had gone into bringing this masterpiece back to life. Under the warm morning sunlight, professional photographers captured every elegant curve, every chrome detail, and every handcrafted finish. The forgotten Roadster no longer looked like an abandoned relic, it stood proudly as one of the finest examples of pre-war automotive craftsmanship. For the first time in decades, the restored Roadster returned to the open road. The rebuilt engine delivered smooth, confident power while the restored suspension absorbed every mile with surprising comfort. The wind flowed across the open cabin just as it had nearly 100 years earlier. Every turn of the wheels proved that this machine had not only been restored, it had truly come back to life. The true beauty of this restoration could be found in the smallest details. The perfectly stitched leather seats, the polished wooden dashboard, the gleaming chrome headlights, and the classic wire wheels all reflected countless hours of careful craftsmanship. Every single component honored the original design, ensuring that this automobile remained authentic to its 1930 heritage. Cars like this are far more than machines. They are rolling pieces of history that tell the story of innovation, craftsmanship, and human determination. By restoring this Roadster instead of replacing it, an important chapter of automotive history has been preserved for future generations. Its journey reminds us that true classics never lose their value, they simply wait for someone willing to believe in them again. What began as a forgotten, rust-covered Roadster hidden inside an old barn has become a breathtaking symbol of patience, skill, and passion. Every challenge along this journey proved that no masterpiece is ever truly beyond saving. Thank you for joining us from the very first discovery to this unforgettable transformation. If you enjoyed watching this incredible restoration, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for the next classic restoration adventure.